Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of FSi's Fantasy NASCAR Pick Show. It's going to be a truck show and Xfinity show. I'm not going to make you guys watch two videos just to try to get some more views out there. Appreciate all you do watching, but everything's going to be pretty straightforward here. So kind of tilted as I do this because, wow, I filled out like two brackets for the final four. I picked Arizona and Purdue, which both are gone. Um, Sorry if you recorded the games and didn't get a chance to watch yet. So, and then like World Baseball Classic, like McKinley and I, we've been actually crushing like spring season or spring training, and like World Baseball Classic has been going really well. I took down the GPP for the Japan showdown the other day, and I had a great line for Dominican Republic and Mexico. I'm like 5 points out of first place. And the one guy that I have that the other guy in first place doesn't have hits a bomb. And Randy Rosarena from Mexico makes an amazing catch and robs me of $700. Anyways, finished second, still good night. So, and what's even more tilting is that qualifying was rained out for Xfinity and for trucks. So we basically have the scrambled order of how they finished pretty much last week, kind of, or some mathematical formula that they used. So we really know nothing, and we really kind of wanted them to have some time out there for practice and qualifying because they changed the entry position to pit row. So that's going to make a huge difference in making sure that they get down to the correct speed, and everything could lead to more penalties, which we've seen a lot of recently in all the series. So uh, it's Atlanta. It's been repaved. So you can only really look back at last year for true data. You can look at Daytona and Talladega. It's not a restrictor plate race, but it does race really fast. So it almost is like a restrictor plate race or super speedway. So and I think that's how we got treated, with like stacking in the back. But we got to be careful because they had no practice or qualifying or anything. They know nothing about these trucks. So some of these teams have a propensity to break down and not make it. So I look back at like their track style averages. I took a look at Atlanta 22, Daytona 23, Dega 22 for trucks. At least Xfinity had two Atlanta races last year. They had a spring one and one in like June or July, and then they had Daytona. So that's kind of where I went. And this is a strange track too, as in like usually on like play tracks you have like so many like different switches of positions, and not necessarily saying that this is a dominator race, but if I'm looking at the truck series race, and last year you had Cody Himes led 22 laps, Zane Smith led 21 laps, Ryan Preece led 49 laps, Grant Enfinger led 14 laps, and John Hunter Nemechek led 11 laps, and Ben Rhodes 9 laps. So there's like six guys that led like some chunks of laps. Obviously, actually Friesen led the most laps at 49. I was looking at the wrong. It wasn't Ryan Preece. I was looking at the wrong line there. So maybe there are some dominator points, and maybe there's a truck that can get out there and lead. And this isn't going to be like the back and forth, like two different lines, three different lines, white knuckle driving where they're like trading on and off positions. But still, since it's a longer track, you don't have that many laps, so it's not like it's like a true short track, or like Phoenix last week, or like Las Vegas, where you like the laps add up. So maybe there's some merit in finding somebody that's going to potentially dominate this race and get things. But I'm looking at the fastest laps, and they are way spread out. I think there's only one, like Tanner Gray had 10, everybody else had less than 10. So like fast laps are going to be spread out everywhere. For laps led, there is potential that maybe a half dozen guys could get some extra points there, but nailing them down is going to be kind of hard. Because again, you don't know what strategy. Are people just going to kind of lay back and try to stay out of trouble? I don't really think Atlanta has like big ones like Daytona and Talladega, but the potential's there for like the speeds and how close they're going to be probably running together. So we'll just have to watch for that. So just starting up top here, I just think out of the top five, like Zane Smith, Majeski, Eckes, and Hocevar are all great drivers. Any one of them can win this, but if they don't, you're taking a huge risk up here because there's going to be a lot of potential place differential um, in this race, because I do think it's going to be easy to pass. I do think that trucks are going to move around quite often. So I'm really not too excited about the top five, except for Ben Rhodes, because Ben Rhodes, he finished second last year, but he just has so much experience here. The track style average between Atlanta and Daytona and Talladega is like one of the best ones that you have here. So, but again, that's still GPP. I'm not going to start my cash till like probably around like 13th here. Corey Heinrich said he won the race last year. He did well, so I think he's a GPP. Grant Amfinger always has does pretty well with experience here. He finished 12th here last year, so wasn't a great race, but wasn't a bad one. Matt Crafton's another one that has a lot of experience. He's kind of struggled here. He finished 25th. Um, got caught up in something, I think, or had a mechanical problem. But if you look at like Daytona, he ran really, really well there. Talladega, he did not. So, even though Matt Crafton finished last Atlanta race in 26, like his average running position was in the top 12 for most of the race. So, I just think you can consider him in a GBP. Chase Purdy in a Kyle Busch truck is definitely in play. Matt DiBenedetto really struggled. I believe he had a mechanical issue with this truck in this race, which was bad because we thought, he'd go out there and do really well. His track style composite average is probably the second best here. So I do miss a GPP here just because I really wish he was starting a little bit further back. But I think, he's one that you can play here, and he might be one that leads a handful of laps also out there. Tanner Gray, like I said last time, he had 10 fastest laps. He didn't lead any of the laps. He finished eighth. He was as high as second. So he's usually solid here, but his track style average looks really bad. I don't get that because I'm looking at his average running position. So apparently he just gets into trouble late, but he runs really well most of the race. So I'll let you decide on that. So GPP. Jake Garcia, again, you have McNally Hillman. I just don't know about this truck. 35 last year. I don't even know if it was entered into the race, which I don't see it. Jake Garcia has experience in, I don't know if Atlanta, he's run here like ARCA or anything, but again, I think he started a little bit too far for it. I almost put him as a fade here. Which actually, I don't think I got to switch to the fade. I just don't have a good feeling about him. So I'm taking him out of my player pool. So, okay. So my first one here is Ankrum in cash. And Ankrum's usually pretty solid at these types of tracks. He finished 11th here, 7 fast laps, no laps led. Even though it's 28th average finish in this track style, most of them was a Talladega. His Daytona ones didn't look as bad. So I think let's bring him down. But his average running position is in close to the top 10 for all 3 comparable races recently. So if he can, move up into the top 10 and stay there, get you a little bit of place differential, get a decent finishing position, I think feel good for him in cash. Stuart Friesen, I think, is a very strong play here. He finished 6th. He spent most of the time in the top 2. He led the most laps. I think it was like a late restart, which they got ahead of him. He just couldn't catch up and seal the victory here. But he ran really well here in Atlanta, not as much at Daytona and Talladega, but I really think that here he's a decent cash play here, starting 14th. Colby Harrod gets a GPP. Like, the numbers for him on other tracks are much better than this one, but again, like, they only had it once with the new configuration. So GPP, I'm not going to put him in the fade. Dean Thomas is a fade. If you just look at his numbers, he should finish in like the 30s. He just racks bad luck. I mean, he's a much better truck this year, but I just still need to see more. Jack Woods, usually pretty solid. I think he finished pretty bad Was that last year, or was it some other track I'm thinking? I don't even see him in the truck race last year. I think he's a GPP. Like, again, he's like 21st average running position here, and then like 33rd overall. So that's kind of scary. Timmy Hill is really solid. Always usually has a good day at tracks like this. Probably can get up in the top 15, maybe top 10 upside. So he's somebody finished 21st last year. So, you know, he'd only lose you like 3 spots there, but I think he's got a tremendous amount of upside. Daniel Dye, he really struggled at Daytona. He really hasn't raced too much. Um, seen mechanical problems with this GMS truck, and him just seems like wrecking every single week. So it's been a steep learning curve for him. So I'm out on him. Nicholas Sanchez, I think he's GPP. I think he's got a lot of talent, but I just don't know how he's going to run a truck on this track. He just doesn't have the experience again. So kind of GPP, but might stay away there. Lawless Allen, I just look at those numbers and just think he's gonna end up somewhere in the 30s, also get into trouble. So I'm out on him there. Ruth, 29th. So GPP, I just again just a little bit concerned. He could have a good day, could be a sleeper, but really not super enthusiastic. Lane Riggs, he's got a decent price on here because he's in a decent truck. He is a decent driver. He doesn't have a ton of experience, but what he does have is like a 13 average finish for any time he has raced in either Xfinity or truck. So I think you can play him in cash. I think he'll have a solid day, and I think people will kind of overlook him and look at his price tag and really not know much about him or who he is. John Hunter Nemechek, probably most people are going to say that this is should be a prime play because he is a good driver. He was in the truck series. He is in a decent truck here too, but he just seems to get in a lot of trouble. I look at it and like 19th overall finishing position, which is good because that's 5 place differential points. But I look at Atlanta last year, he started 12th, he ended finishing 24th. He did lead a couple of laps out there. He had 11, 4 fastest laps. So, he did make his way up to the front, but I just see him like having some bad luck, and I don't want to pay. I mean, pricing's not going to be an issue here too, and you're probably going to leave money on the table. You encourage to do that, as you stack the back, and just and sometimes $10,000 or $20,000. If you like your lineup, then for races like this, that's what you need to do. So, I mean, you could probably easily get John Hunter Nemechek in. I'm sure he's going to be pretty popular. I just don't know if I can play him in cash. So with GPP. Chris Wright's solid. If he finishes where he starts, he should be good, but he has some upside to advance through attrition. Mason Massey is GPP. These William brother trucks, I just sometimes worry about the Takam, especially not. Chris Hacker was in it. Actually finished 17th, which is decent in the Atlanta race last year. But again, with no practice or anything, it just kind of scares me. Spencer Boyd, he's been pretty solid usually in these trucks. His numbers and overall with the track composite looked pretty good. So, he's somebody I consider as a cheaper cash play down here. Rayum, same thing as like Massey. I just don't know if I trust the equipment. So it's GPP, but not a fade. Honeycutt, young kid, is pretty talented. Roper Racing, if Corey Roper has been very, very successful in plate tracks, and I know he's not driving the truck, but I just think that this team knows how to set up these trucks and teach their drivers, whoever they have, to do well here. So, and just I like Honeycutt's composite score, so I think he definitely playing with cash here. Bailey Curley has a ton of experience. This Nice truck should be able to hold it together okay, make it up into the top 25, maybe sniff the top 20 or high teens. So definitely feel safe playing him in cash. Mason Maggio, GPP here, could finish where he starts, could finish dead last. I just don't really see, he doesn't have much experience on this type of track, and I just really haven't seen good metrics on him. Okay, so now my prime plays. Hailie Deegan, I just think that she's in a really good truck. I know she's had some bad luck and things, and Atlanta was horrible last year, but average running position was like 20th, and I know she got wrecked in Daytona, and Bodega is pretty solid. So again, I think there's some upside of betting her like $1 on her every single week that she's going to win a race this year. So I might be out like 20 some dollars by the end of the year if she doesn't, but so be it. I just think she's a solid play here. Brett Holmes, I really like him here also. 10th finish overall finish, running position in Talladega. 23 didn't run last year here in Atlanta in the truck race, but I do think that he's he's fighting for rookie of the year, and I think that he's not a 33rd place truck here. You can definitely get you some place differential points. Ortega, the Glory to God Racing, these trucks are absolutely horrible. Could finish dead last. I was GPP just because it's so far down here that it's you have some baked in points here that even if he finishes 34th, he's still going to have like 4 points, so like he can't get to a negative like Dean Thompson could. Dean Thompson, if he could have like negative 20 points if he finishes last, so you have like 16 because you get like the 4 bonus points because there's not 40 trucks in the race with the DK scoring system. So I don't like Orgata and these Glory God trucks. They've been running selective races. Last year they tried 2 trucks, and it just like I think it's a decent program. I just think they need to work a lot of kinks out before. It kind of reminds me of like the Jesse Inua one in Xfinity. It's a good story. They've got some good backing and some good concepts, but I just think they've got some good tech alliances and things like that. They just need some more experience. They probably don't have a couple full-time employees, but through time, hopefully they learn some things and actually can field some competitive pieces of equipment. Ryan Vargas is the other prime here. Decent driver, this On Point Racing Motorsports. They used to have 3 cars in the Xfinity series. Brett Moffitt was one of them, Alfredo last year, and Jed Burton. But now they've kind of they expanded too fast, and it just kind of all broke down. So they have one Xfinity team, maybe field a second one, but they're moving into the truck series here. Ryan Vargas is a decent driver. He's not a 35th place. It's not a 35th place truck. So definitely think it can get up to like at least 10 place differential points. So I like this as a prime play. And Keith McGee really isn't that bad here. Down here, it's just the Reum brothers truck just kind of scares me. He's baked in 4 points. You can't go below 4 points. He's got a 4-point floor because of the DK scoring system, and he can go no place but up. So, I think he's definitely a decent punt, more of a GPP than a cash play. So let me flip over, change my screens here, and pull up the Xfinity information. Okay, so this one I'm going to approach a little bit differently. Same thing, up top 5 here. Sammy Smith, Nemechek, Truex, and Herbst, I think are all great drivers and super fast. Had a great week last week, but I just don't know. Austin Hill has just dominated these races. So in GPP, I think you might start with him because he definitely has win upside. He has looked so good. Won the last 2 Daytona. I believe he won Atlanta here last year. Was it? No, Ty Gibbs won, but I think he won the fall race for that. So, but again, looking at like lap leaders, Hill led 27 laps. AJ Allmendinger, who's not in the race, at 41 laps. Sheldon Creed, 15 laps. Ty Gibbs only led 1 lap and won the race. So that just tells you. And then Noah Grayson had 36 laps led, and Trevor Bain, who's not in this race had 38 laps. So you have again like 5 drivers leading a significant amount of laps, or not a ton of laps, but again, it could be something. So if you have a feeling that somebody up here is going to lead a bunch of laps, I think Austin Hill's the best candidate for that. But even if he's at third and finishes first and leads like 34 laps, is he going to be in the is he going to be in the perfect lineup? I don't know. So, or optimal lineup, I don't know. But I think you can play him GPP. Chandler Smith, colleague cars are usually decent here or in plate races. So I think you can look at this. He did well in the Truck Series last year. Sheldon Creed just always finds trouble, but he's ran really well at Atlanta. So that's something to look at. Like his average running position was in 10th, and he actually finished 9th. So he's had some success here where he has in other places. So I think that, and working with Austin Hill potentially, I think that definitely GPP. Cole Custer, like, again, he's really had some bad luck to start the season. I think it's all going to come together. Like, he's way too talented, but I think they'll get the kinks ironed out, and I think he'll be, and he's had some bad luck too. So I don't know if it turns around this race. That's why I have him as GPP. But JR Motorsports have always been good on plate races, so that's why I like Barry and Mayer here in cash, even starting in the top 10. I think they probably end up finishing in the top 5. Potentially, they could be one of the ones that leads the race. I know Barry had a rough time, and I know he's also doing Cup double duty, but I think either one of these, they both did really well at Daytona, had average running position in the top 7. So I think that they're definitely decent plays. Hemrick's usually okay on plate tracks, but I think, GPP. Brett Moffitt is a dark horse. Like, he did what he needed to do for us last week when I picked him as one of my prime plays, but starting a little too far forward here. Parker Kligerman, again, could definitely get up there. 13th average running position, Daytona, so it kind of makes you feel like he might be finishing where he starts, and maybe has a little place differential upside, but not enough for me to play him in cash. Ryan Sieg, same thing. Anthony Alfredo kind of scares me. He, especially in a BJ McLeod car with no practice, so he's a GPP, but he was almost a borderline fade for that. But here's another pair of cash guys I like. This Jordan Anderson Racing. Jordan Anderson in the last couple of years in plate racing has been like finished every single race, which is really hard to do, and finished well in all the races. So again, he's not driving the cars, but he's setting them up. He's working with the drivers. You can probably share some of his wisdom with them. And so I think Bert and Parker here are solid cash plays in the 16th and 17th position. So now I come to my prime section, and like I said, it's stacked the back. But when I get down to the bottom, I'll tell you why they're not the prime plays. I think they're definitely in play for some of them for cash, but Haley and Allgaier, these are 2 really good drivers. Haley's in the Cup Series, but they've always been really good on plate tracks, and especially you have one of them, Allgaier's a junior motorsports one. So I think I definitely like to start here with the place differential. I know you're not getting as much as they fit down, but I think they definitely can make their way up there. And Brandon Jones also, like, all 3 of these cars, I think, I just want to start my lineup with these 3 and then throw in maybe like Kyle Weatherman, who's in between them, who's in the R Motorsports car. The same argument I made for, in the Truck Series. It's a decent program. I think just having the one car really has helped them. I think, starting with these 3 to 4, or even 2 of these ones, if you want to go up and like throw in like a Barry or Mayer, also it's probably gonna be hard to like stack the whole junior motorsports team to try to figure that out financially. But you're probably going to be playing like an Emerling Gase card, which is kind of scary for me. Josh Williams, like he does well at plate races. He's starting a little too far forward here. He did a little too well last week. If he's starting the 30s, I would absolutely maybe even prime him and have him locked in. But GPP for me here. Jeremy Clements is very good at these types of races. So I think he can definitely stay in the top 25, not move up in the top 20, maybe top 15 would be his ceiling. Ryan Ellis is a fade for me. Alpha Prime Racing, I like the program, but he just has always been really bad at this type of racing. So I'm just going to stay away there. Connor Mosaic, really not a ton of experience on these types of tracks, but he's in a Sam Hunt Toyota, which is a decent car. So I think he can at least finish where he starts. Maybe has a little bit of upside here. Kyle Sieg, again, it's a decent car. Like his brother's definitely better. Looks like, you know, he finishes around like 28th, 29th. So maybe there's a little upside there, but I think he's more GPP play. Joe Graff, like I said, he's too. If you watch the show over and over again, he's not in the Gibbs car this week. He's back in a Sieg car. He gets into trouble. He finds trouble. He's often potentially one of the first people out of the race. So I can't do him. Kaz Grala, like this play here, another Sam Hunt car. Probably will work with the Toyotas if they try to link up and something there have put together if they do like other plate tracks. I think definitely he can find some friends there and work with them and have a successful day. Definitely not a 28th place driver or car. Brendan Poole, GPP, just JD Motorsports cars. So usually one of them breaks down, and usually the 4 is better than the 6. So I'm not going to put him in cash. Sayes Karam and Jeffrey Earnhardt. Here's 2 other Alpha Prime cars. I like these ones much better. Jeffrey Earnhardt has a lot of experience on plate tracks. Sage Karam is pretty decent also, even though he didn't really do well at the spring race at Atlanta. The fall one he did. So and they have got average finishes in like in the 20s. So I think there's definitely some upside there. These Emerald and Gase cars scare me. I've seen so many tech problems and issues with them recently with no practice qualifying or anything like that. I don't know if they're gonna make the whole race. Garrett Smithley, same thing. They worry about the tech. The green light cars down here. Blaine Perkins is a decent driver. He had a bad race at Daytona, but that's really doesn't tell the story of that. Gray Galding, I'm just a little bit more skeptical on. I don't know how well he's going to do. Like Joe Graff finished 23rd in the green light car last year, so I think that they're not cash plays. Well, Perkins, I think, is, but Greg Aldrin, I'm not. And then you have Chad Chastain, who's Ross Chastain's brother. He's raced a couple truck races. He hasn't really seen, I don't see him anything at Xfinity. I have a GPP. Like, he can't go any, I think he'll be very popular because he can't go anywhere but up from here. And, you know, he really can't lose a ton of points. You know, I think he'll end up with like 1 or 2 points when all said and done if he finished dead last. But I don't think he's his brother. Like the DGM car's okay, but not great. So I'm just gonna kind of maybe put in a GPP if he fits. But again, like I said, you're probably gonna leave a lot of money on the table. You're gonna although I do have some expensive prime plays here, so you might have to be a little bit more budget conscious here. So we'll have to see. And then Cesar Beccarelli, there's supposed to be Tim Hill in this car, the 66, and it looks like Cesar Beccarelli is going to drive it. He's not in the DK player pool, so you can't play him, so don't even worry about him there. So again, like I said, this race is going to be kind of weird because you got to think of it as like a Daytona and Talladega and like go for that place differential. But it does look like there could be a couple drivers that may lead a few chunks of laps, but there's not a ton of laps because it's a long track. So with all that being said, you know, it's probably an in-pound race. And if they do tech tomorrow and you see some people fail and they start at the back, it doesn't matter because you can easily pass here and make up place differential and stuff. And people shouldn't be lapped unless they've completely fallen off the pace, which I fear like some of the Gase cars and like maybe some of lower end trucks in the series that I was kind of concerned about might be there. So appreciate you watching the video. If you have any questions, as always, hit me up at Ruler31 on Twitter, or leave some comments here. I do have to work my day job tomorrow, right before lock, and I'm teaching a seminar during there too, so I'll try to get back to you. But please, if you can have all your questions in before like 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then I might be able to get to them like 12:30, 1 o'clock on lunch break before lock, I believe, for the truck races too. So again, appreciate you watching. I'll have a cup video. They should be able to qualify and maybe have some practice, so we'll have a little bit more details on that. So hopefully this helped you. Again, sorry I didn't do like two complete like breakdowns and have like a lot of data and projection and stuff. I just don't think this type of race merits it. So I think we talked about like what the safe plays are. I think I'm looking at technically sound cars that aren't going to fall apart, drivers that have good history in this style of racing, from some place differential, and maybe try to take some shots in GPPs at who you think might go out there and dominate. Would be like an Austin Hill, or just somebody in the truck series that you think is not starting like in the top 5, but can get up there and maybe lead some laps. So again, thanks for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't, so you know when our videos are coming out. And again, if you want more information on FSi DFS, it's in the bio. So spring training baseball is still free, so we'll do that up until the 30th when the regular season starts. So jump in on that too. Or if you want to subscribe to the NASCAR package, because we're lucky this week and we have qualifying, but there's going to be some turnaround weeks coming up where we're not going to be able to get a video out because we literally have like 2 or 3 hours at the end of qualifying to put the sheet together to figure out what the plays are. And by the time I do a video and post it, like we're almost to lock. So but the sheet's always in our Discord for our premium members who subscribe, so you always have that option. And again, it's really, really cheap. I think it's like $5 a week, $10 a month, and $75 for a season. So again, here to help you, not trying to make money, just trying to pay the electric bill and the internet bill and some things like that. So again, appreciate you watching, and good luck in your contest. You know how to get a hold of me, and I will see you next time.